Friends, welcome to another episode of Ask MotoMan. We are on the PCH going south, and we're trying to chase a beautifully restored BMW 2002, which itself is trying to chase a Golf GTI, which actually the Golf GTI just turned off. So there's the GTI. He's gone, so I guess now let's just focus on your questions and a short mini, little review of the Dune Beetle Turbo. Okay, so before we kick off here, a little idea of where we're at. I'm on the Pacific Coast Highway going south. I left Ojai this morning and heading down to a very exciting, one of my favorite shows of the entire year, the Japanese collector car show. This thing was like 2 cars only 3 years ago, and now it's a huge thing. Very excited to go there. So I figured I'd take the scenic route and talk to you guys about the Volkswagen Dune Beetle Turbo, as well as answer one question, but a very important question. So the Volkswagen Beetle, there's the restored 2002. It's in a burgundy color. It's actually pretty cool looking. Kind of a period burgundy. Anyway, I digress. So I really have not featured this car on the show because, if I'm honest, I really didn't think too much about a Volkswagen Beetle with a lift kit, a small one at that, and a fancy paint job and a different interior. Now, let's circle back, what was it, 5, 6, even 7 years ago. I don't remember exactly when, but Volkswagen showed a concept car that became the Dune. And it was super cool, man. It was a coupe. It was 5 inches higher. It had that cool fabric sunroof. I think it was diesel. Don't quote me on that one. I think it was diesel. It was all-wheel drive. It was so cool looking. And I'm like, now that's different. Now, I'll admit, I like different things. That's why I drive cars that are unreliable, that leak, and are hand-built in a shed in England. But I am just one man, and I have learned in these 7 years of doing this that no one agrees with me on this stuff. That's why very few people buy the same cars that I do. So I can completely appreciate why Volkswagen did not bring that car into production. What they did was basically give a fancy, discotheque paint job to an existing Beetle. So that's really, if I'm completely honest, why I didn't feature this car on the show in a full tech review or a full first drive review. But I'm going to say something to you guys you're probably going to be somewhat shocked about. I actually like the Beetle. I like it a lot for a couple of reasons. Number one, it makes no apologies for itself. It is a Beetle. It's not trying to be more sporting than it is. It's not trying to be something else. It's not trying to be luxurious. It's just trying to be a Beetle. And I have a lot of respect for anything or anyone that just is very happy being itself in its own comfortable skin, which the Beetle has done for many years. Then number two, I really do like the Beetle because it is based on an existing very good platform, which is the Golf. It's just a bit more stylish. Now, just a little aside here, we are going through Point Mugu State Park here, and this little, I don't know if you guys can see it out there, this basically sand hill. You guys in the Northeast and the Midwest go on hills and go sledding with a sled on snow. People come with sleds and they go down this sand. Actually, there's a couple people doing it right now, going up there. Anyway, well, if you come to visit, you should check it out. Let's go back to the Beetle. So it's based on a very good platform, which if you have seen our GTI episode or our Golf R episode, really like those cars. Really like those cars. Now, where we diverge from I like a Beetle to what are some of the troubles with the Beetle is, number one, this isn't tuned like a GTI, or it's not tuned like a Golf R, and I wouldn't really expect it to be. I think it would be neat to have a Beetle R, and I think maybe there is one somewhere around the world, but I think it would be neat. But here's the struggle with bringing that to production, at least for the US, and the same reason why the Dune didn't go to production as a concept car. I don't think anybody would buy something like this in a Golf R or Beetle R variant, or a Dune R diesel, all-wheel drive, super tall kind of thing that you would take to like Baja, Mexico, because it would be like $40,000+. And I just don't think there's a market for a $40,000+ car. So as much as I think it would be cool, I totally agree with Volkswagen on this one, that there probably isn't enough of a business case. Now let's put that aside. There are a couple of interesting things that have been updated. Like number one, all Volkswagens now have Apple CarPlay. We did do an Apple CarPlay episode in the Passat last year. Go check that out. But now that I've lived with it in a couple of Volkswagens at home, I will tell you there's like two problems. Number one, the voice recognition in Volkswagen's not great. Believe it or not as good as some of the GM integrations I've used. Like for example, I used Apple CarPlay in the Ferrari, and actually the voice activation and the voice controls through Apple CarPlay were quite good, and that was a convertible as well. I did have some problems with the Camaro, but let's put that aside for a minute. The other issue I have with this, and I don't know why this is the case, you plug this one in. It's not just this specific car I'm sitting in, this Dune, but it is also the Golf that I had, as well as the Golf Sport Wagon that I had. Basically, you plug it in, sometimes it decides to work. Like today, it's deciding to work and show the screen and have the iOS environment up here. But I would say 50% of the time, you plug this thing and it says connection failed. And it continually goes back and forth, connection failed. And I've tried to literally, like a computer, reboot by shutting the car down, even getting out, walking doors, getting back in, and sometimes it does not fix the problem. I would say there's probably some sort of a software glitch in this integration, something for Volkswagen to look at, because they're the only ones that have this connection problem that I've seen. I haven't seen it in any other of the integrations, and that includes the Hyundai integration. Then there's one important thing that I want to bring up here. So I had this car, we got back from that Porsche Cayman drive in Texas, and I picked it up at the airport. And I went, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I went to see Trombone Shorty. Oh my God, the guy is super talented. Sharon Jones, I had never seen her in concert. That woman is a ball of fire. If you need inspiration in life, this woman is fighting cancer. Like, she is in the middle of fighting cancer, going through chemo. She has no hair, yet she is out there singing her heart out. Like, super kudos to Sharon Jones. And then, of course, Daryl Hall and John Oates. And you can laugh at me all you want, call me an old man, whatever it is, but two interesting things happened about this Daryl Hall and John Oates concert. Number one, the age range, I expected it to be all old people like me. I was dead wrong. Like, there were tons of people that were like in their lower 20s, and then there were people that were kind of in my age, and then there were people that were kind of like upper 40s, 50s, that kind of, even into 60s, 70s. But here's the second thing about that concert, and I'll post this on Instagram. It wasn't so much a concert as it was a sing-along. A sing-along, people. Like, every song they sang, everyone knew the words. By the way, Neptune's Net, if you have a motorcycle, want to come out, check it out. Food, not so great. View, excellent. Anyway, it was a sing-along. I was totally surprised by this. Again, check out Instagram. But anyway, the reason why I bring that up is I went with two women to this concert, and they pointed out that driving this car, most people thought I was driving their car, which is probably the truth. Okay, now that we've covered some of those bits, I want to bring up something incredibly surprising. No, it's not the additional ride height over a standard Beetle, and literally, as I am saying this, a standard Beetle convertible goes past us. That's a turbo. I gotta tell you, if it were me, it would be red, tan interior, tan top, turbo with a stick. That would probably be the one I would do. Or actually, I don't know if they still make the diesel version. They probably don't with that after all the stuff that's happened. But that would probably be the one I would get if I were to do a Beetle. Anyway, I didn't expect much out of this. There actually isn't that much of a difference in the driving dynamics with a car that's a little taller, which begs the question, why did they even do it? Here's the thing that was surprising. I expected this thing to blend into the world of Los Angeles, meaning no one would notice it. I got more attention in this car, no joke, than that McLaren 570S. that bright orange metallic McLaren 570S. You wouldn't believe how many people came up to me and say, my God, that is a beautiful car. I love that color. I love that car. Hey, how do you like that Volkswagen? I didn't expect it. And this were people from all walks of life. Like, as I was mounting the cameras to the car, this woman in a Toyota Yaris, drives a stick, by the way. She's like, hey, how do you like that? I want to get a new, smaller convertible, and I think I want to get that one. And she's like, I'll only get a stick. Then there was this super cool guy. I was going to the dry cleaner. He comes up like, hey, man, how cool is that? And he's like telling me his whole history. He's got a resume of Beetles this guy has had throughout the years, but now the guy has like a Z06 or something like that, yet he still has 2 Beetles at home, and he wants one of these. Matter of fact, one of the Beetles he has at home, he's got a 356 engine in it. Anyway, stunned that there was this much attention paid to this car. I just didn't think people even knew what this was, let alone would even give a second look to a Beetle at this point. I guess I was wrong. Okay, now let's put aside the Beetle, and I want to get into your questions. And today, I want to cover one question. And this is, I feel, an important question because it comes from a high school student, Sam Krahn. He came to me through YouTube, and he saw the episode where I talked about, or really answered Alistair's question about getting into design school. And Sam's question is, well, can you answer the same question about getting into auto journalism? I wanted to unpack this from a couple of different levels. There's really the specific answer of how do you get into auto journalism. Then there is how you need to prepare your life to do something like that. And then there's just the attributes of getting into a career like auto journalism that applies to other careers. So let's start with Sam's question on its face. How do I get into auto journalism? Well, there's really 3 ways to do it. Number 1, you could go into a journalism program at one of many schools around the world. You guys probably know Roman at TFL Car. That's what he did. He went to an undergrad program, and then he actually went to a master's program at Georgetown in DC for journalism. So he's probably one of the more educated journalists you see on the circuit. Then there is the old, well, I brought this up with Alistair's answer, you just gotta hustle, people, which is get out there and you just do it. And then the third is you got to go out there and kind of prove yourself. So let's look at each one. If you go into like the journalism track, let's say for the sake of discussion, you decide you want to get a journalism degree, you're going to go down a path of 4 years or 6 years in school, and then you're going to be given a beat. If you were lucky enough to get a decent wage earning money as a journalist, you're going to get a beat, and it's usually not going to be automotive. It's going to be something like city news or political beat or police blotter. You're going to start there and you're going to work your way up. That is like the old tried and true way to get into journalism. Now, I'm going to focus more on the hustle way because this may be somewhat surprising to some of you guys. I don't consider myself an automotive journalist. I went to university, I did a double major in German and political science. I never had a design to be in journalism. My focus, my dream since I was growing up is I wanted to get into comedy and I wanted to be a storyteller. So when I'm at a cocktail party and I'm talking to people that don't know what I do, have no interest in cars whatsoever, oh, the poet's eye's coming after us, and they have no interest in cars whatsoever, my answer is I am a comedian and I am a filmmaker, which is what I do. You guys don't see the comedian part on camera. Happy to invite you to a show at some point, but you really don't see that on camera. And it's through that lens that got me into this world, and this is where I'll give you a little personal history that might help answer Sam's question. So I was in technology for many years, and I kind of fell into technology right after. Matter of fact, during university, I started working on Apple Computer. So I worked for Apple Computer for 5 years, and then I stayed in technology and went to an internet company called Prodigy, you may remember. And then I went into the startup world. That's when I was living over in England. And I realized I just wasn't doing what I was passionate about, which was I wanted to be telling stories. I wanted to be telling jokes. And the reality of the situation is I was like, who does that for a living? That was my hang up. And I bring that up because that's most people's hang up in trying to get into any field they want. They immediately try to think of things like, well, how am I going to pay my rent? Or how am I going to buy a car I want? Or how am I going to afford this? Totally the wrong way of looking at that. And that's why I wanted to bring this point up. Man, there's something going on, because this is now the third LA County Sheriff that's coming down this way. So let's get back to the story. I ended up, I'll probably do an episode of like the background of MotoMan if you guys are interested. I don't want to focus on that here. I want to answer Sam's question. But there was a guy, Dave Kinney, who's been on the show. He sat across the table from me back in 2006 and said, you need to figure out what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, because you're going to wake up one day, you're going to be 50, and you're not going to know where the time went. And I went into a month-long panic attack. Anyway, fast forward 3 years, and at that point, I was living in Los Angeles. I was working my way up on the comedy circuit, so I'm going up 5 nights a week, everything from the places like Improv and Comedy Store to places that were like open mics, more like group therapy. Man, something really is going on here. But it was through that gig that I got offered a writing gig from a very large men's lifestyle site. And they came to me and they said, well, we'd like you to write for us. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to write about? They go, what do you like? I'm like, I don't know. Well, what is it you're passionate about? I'm like, I like cars. Well, write about cars. And I had no idea there was this whole realm of automotive journalism, and more importantly, that they gave you a car every week if you wrote about cars. And previously, I was working in technology to support a car habit, if I'm honest. So I'm like, this is awesome. So I started doing it, and of course, this was in, 2008, 9, economy fell off a cliff, no one's hiring writers whatsoever. So in knocking on doors trying to get more distribution for my writing, because Sam, that is what you're going to be doing. I don't care if you're going to be working for a large company or you're going to be working as a freelancer, you are going to be banging on doors looking for distribution for the rest of your life. That is part and parcel to the journalism world. That's just, especially now as it's fragmented from just like old school, snooty journalism from working at places like the New York Times and the Washington Post to blogs. And it was in knocking on doors that I found another large men's lifestyle site that said, we're not looking for writers, but we see you doing the stand-up and we see you with the cars, we would buy a series. And it was at that point we put the series together. Again, happy to do a separate Ask MotoMan on the whole story on that. But the point is, I came into the auto journalism world from comedy and filmmaking, not auto journalism. So if you look at my show, it's very different than other shows in that I'm not sitting here and giving you buy recommendations on cars. I'm telling you a story about cars. I'm trying to share the experience with you. So I bring this up because I want you, Sam, to understand, why do you want to get into automotive journalism? If it's just about the travel or driving new cars, I would argue it is the wrong reason. If it's about getting paid, like a lot of people get into finance, or they're gonna get into like medical equipment sales or whatever it is because they think they're gonna make pots and pots of money, absolutely the wrong direction in life. I really want you to understand the why rather than how much can I make or how many cars can I drive. Because, and here's the most important part, this is speaking of stupid, here's a guy making a U-turn on PCH. This is a stupid amount of work. I used to work in technology. I made a lot more money than I do now, and I worked 1/10 what I do now. That's why when you look in this world, the people who are actually successful are going out there and killing it, like Roman. Matt, you guys know Matt. I've been on his podcast many times. Matt, Roman, me, I would argue some of the guys at Auto Guide, some of the hardest working guys you have ever seen in the business. They're always doing it. They're always working. Like Matt is always out there with a camera shooting your cars, or he's shooting his cars, or doing something for Drive. I'm always out here shooting. I'm traveling to another car to shoot that car because I love telling you the story. I love meeting the people like Ralph Gilles, or I just met these two cool engineers from Porsche that literally re-engineered the entire Porsche engine strategy. This is why I do this, is to meet these cool guys, to drive what they're doing, to understand the logic, the ethos behind cars. That's my why. Which brings us to one of our most important points. The sacrifices you are going to make for any career of consequence, meaning, and this is a very important distinction for me personally because I had to learn this the hard way. You can work on somebody else's deal, like get a job, pencil pushing, working on somebody else's company and just taking a paycheck home, or living life on a mission. You need to decide. But if you decide to live life on a mission, become an automotive journalist, become a thoracic surgeon, become an aerospace engineer, there are more sacrifices that are required. Sacrifices that you have no concept until you experience it. Yeah, your parents tell you you're going to have to work hard. I'm sure everybody you asked about being an automotive journalist are going to tell you you're going to have to work hard. And I am telling you you're going to have to work harder than what they say. But even what I say doesn't quite get you to grasp it. Like, to give you an idea, I did that round-the-block review with the Mazda CX-9 where I showed you my new neighborhood. And a bunch of you commented, but one guy commented that my living space is probably smaller than my garage, which is 100% true. That's one of the sacrifices you have to make, which gets me to one of the biggest sacrifices you're going to have to make, which I would argue is a prudent decision. I've mentioned to you guys before that I'm a huge Dave Ramsey disciple, and what that means is living your life without debt. Again, I'm not telling you this because I'm perfect. I'm telling you this because I made every financial mistake in the book, and then when I ran out of those financial mistakes, I went and invented financial mistakes. So when I tell you guys that there would be no MotoMan without Dave Ramsey, I don't say that lightly. And I bring this up for a very specific reason, Sam, because you are asking to get into a career that is notoriously low paying. Now, doesn't mean you can't make a couple of bucks doing it. You just have to work 1,000,000 times harder than everyone else and probably work for yourself to be successful at it. But in order to do anything, auto journalism or the other examples I brought up, you need to make sure that you are living below your means, meaning you don't take debt for school, meaning you don't go out and spend money on a fancy car as much as you want one right now because you're a car guy, I'm assuming, if you're watching this show. It means you're going to buy a beater, and a beater could be like a $2,000, $3,000 Miata. You still have plenty of good time with it. But the point is, by living below your means, you buy yourself options in the future. So if I had still been making all of those financial mistakes, there was no way that MotoMan could have been born, because the sacrifices that I still make today wouldn't have been possible with the mistakes I made yesterday. Get it? I bring up the whole debt thing, number one, because I'm very passionate about it, and I feel we have a debt crisis here in our country and around the world for that matter. But the reason why I'm suggesting that you literally live below your means, because you're going to have to go out. I don't care if you want to get into like old school journalism working for like the New York Times, or you want to get into like new school journalism and start your own blog. There's going to be times when you're going to have to go and prove yourself to somebody. You're going to be banging on as many doors as you can. The hustle that I told Alistair, you're going to have to do the same hustle. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to bang on 100 doors. 100 people are going to tell you to piss up a rope. But guess what? There's one person that is going to say, you know what? I'm interested. Tell me more. And it's exactly at that point when someone says they're going to give you a chance that you, Sam, need to be ready. And here's what you need to do in order to be ready. So today, when you're in high school, you need to be working on this grand plan of yours. That means you got to get out there and do it. And who cares if someone's reading it? Start a blog. Start writing about the Volkswagen Dune or a BMW 7 Series or a Tesla Model X. Get your thoughts out there. Work on your writing. You are not going to be perfect when you start. Like, I would argue that I am a better performer now than I was when I started. And you're going to be the same way. I got some amazing advice when I first started in the world of entertainment, and I will never, ever, ever forget it. Someone, an actor you know, told me, Be willing to do it badly. So often in life, and I was very guilty of this, and to some extent I am guilty of it today, that I want it to be perfect. I want it to be just right. I want the sun in the right position and the camera and no traffic and all this kind of stuff. But here's the thing. You are not going to get better at your craft, no matter what it is, unless you are willing to do it badly. Because in that doing it badly, what's happening is not doing it badly. What you're doing is you're experimenting. Think of it as one grand experiment, and you're getting better at your writing. You're getting better at your on-camera performance. You're getting better at your voiceover. Whatever it is, by giving away this temptation to be 100% perfect out of the gate, you're actually getting out there and being consistent. And now our conversation comes full circle back to journalism. Because by doing it badly, by getting out there and trying and experimenting, you are introducing yourself to the concept of consistency. And if you ask any journalist, you need to be consistent. You need to be the first one out there with a story. And here's where I got to take my hat off to Roman over at TFL Car. I learned that lesson from him. Me, I want it to be perfect right out of the gate. Now still, it's a balance for me. Like, I want the product quality to be the Porsche 991. But there are times it needs to be a GMC Acadia. And only through experimentation and being willing to do it badly will you understand that lesson. So let's summarize here. Number one, get educated. I don't care if that's at a 4-year university, a community college, or a graduate degree. See, auto journalism or any kind of journalism, you don't necessarily need that piece of paper to get blessed to be an automotive journalist. It's not like, say, being a doctor, an engineer, or an architect where you absolutely need that degree. It helps. Don't get me wrong, it helps, especially when you go to a very fancy school, where I would argue it helps more with networking than the actual work itself. But more importantly, get yourself educated in cars. And when I say educated, stretch yourself. You might know something about racing cars. Why don't you learn about design, learn about engineering, learn about marketing, learn about sales, learn all aspects of the discipline you are going after and everything related to it. Like, for example, I've learned a lot about finance as it relates to cars. Second, hustle. I've mentioned this for Alistair with car designing, but it applies to you, and it applies to anybody else that wants to do anything of consequence. And when I say hustle, that means go out there and meet as many people as you can meet. Go and shake your hand, tell them what you want to be doing, ask them to tell you their story. Hint, people loved to talk about themselves. And related to that hustle, it's not just you going out and meeting people or educating yourself, it's also doing the work. A lot of people sit around and they wait for permission, which boggles my mind. Even when I was working for somebody else, I still didn't understand the concept of waiting for permission. So go out there and actually write your own blog, or do your own videos, or do your own voiceovers, whatever it is that you're trying to get into, try it now. Remember, don't be afraid to do it badly. Because most importantly, you're doing this not so other people can read your blog. That'd be great if someone did, but you want to be ready for the time when someone does give you a chance. And then third and most important, this applies to whether you want to be an auto journalist or anything of consequence in life, get your financial house in order. Live below your means. There is a very specific reason for this. By living below your means, not getting like overextended on buying a fancy car or being in a fancy house or getting some expensive girlfriend, you want to live below your means, because when someone does offer you an opportunity, I have never heard of a situation where it comes with a huge salary. A lot of times it means working as an intern, meaning you are working for free and be thankful for it, or it means a drastic pay cut. If you are in a hill of debt, you have financial problems trying to just pay the rent or keep the lights on, you will not be able to take advantage of that opportunity. And if you do, you are fooling yourself, because you need your mind focused into the opportunity, not, oh my God, where's my next meal coming? Which is a huge reason why not just car companies, large companies do check your credit when they are looking at you as a potential candidate for employment, because they want to find out the kind of person that you are. Okay, Those are the 3 simple answers. I know I've rattled off big time in this, but now I want to turn this around to you guys, and I want this entire little colloquy, all of our viewers, to help Sam here like we did with Alistair. So I want you guys to tell me, what did you want to be when you grow up? And what are you doing today? And just as important, what are some of the unusual steps you took to get to your chosen career path? All of this will help Sam and anybody else that's looking to answer questions like this about getting into auto journalism or any other field that I keep on using the term of consequence, but really it's your choice of living your life on somebody else's terms or living your life on your own mission. Let me know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, I want to leave you with 2 things. Number 1, make sure you download our fancy new mobile application, which you can download for free at Apple iTunes or Google Play. And we are live on 5, count them 5 international airlines. And number 2, a fun fact. So I mentioned a couple of people throughout this episode. One of them was Roman from TFL Car. Here's a fun fact about Roman. So yes, he did a master's in journalism, and he was like a correspondent with NBC in Chicago or something like that. You can ask him. But there was a point in time where Roman lived in the Czech Republic. You know, he's Czech. And he ran a real estate business. Really. Until I see you next time, bis später.